Today I'm carrying on with second part of John's project. I got to get a couple of pieces here to make a cage for that bearing to roll, for this bearing to roll along. And it's supposed to be 1.5 inch wide and 1/4 inch stock. I don't have any flat bore, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make up the pieces I need, cut them out with my CNC plasma. Nice to be able to do that. I already designed the pieces up on my Mac, and so now I've got them out here in the shop and they're getting ready to cut. This is my fire control software, which runs the CNC plasma system. I'm going to start by doing a dry run. This is 1/4 inch stock, flat stock, mild metal. It runs it cut at about 35 inches per minute and goes through it pretty slick. Doing the dry run just to make sure everything lines up and all my cuts are going to be within the piece of steel, and that I'm not wasting too much of the steel sheet. I don't typically do the whole dry run on a sheet. I just want to make sure everything's lined up correctly and it's gonna cut properly when I push the button and start the fire. And this is looking just fine. So time to stop the dry run, rehome it, and get it ready to do the cut. So ready to start up, got the air turned on, compressor's ready to go, and got my plasma cutter turned on and ready to go. CNC machines already turned on, good to go, system's homed. Just make sure I turn off the dry run button and then press the start and it's good to go. So a little bit about my plasma table. My table's a Langmuir Systems Crossfire XL. This is going to be cutting its 1/4 inch. It's about the maximum I can cut. I can cut 3/8, but 1/4 inch is pretty much the thickest I do. It'll cut this at about 35 inches per minute, and it has torch height control on the plasma table, so that it actually keeps the same distance, the torch head away from the metal all the way through the cut. So in case there's differences in maybe it bends a little or something, it'll keep a consistent height, which is really good for keeping a nice clean cut. And you'll see at the end of this that it really does cut nicely. I'm using a Miller 375 Extreme plasma cutter. It's about this 1/4 inch to 3/8 is about the maximum I can do with this machine, but I honestly don't really cut that much more than 1/4 inch, sometimes 3/8. Most of my stuff is smaller, thinner gauge, and it does a really great job at it. There we go, 3 pieces cut out, and you can see by the looks of the sides here, the edges, that's a pretty smooth cut. And that should be great for what we're going to do here. We're just going to build a little cage for the bearings. And that's how the little cage is going to fit on there. I weld it, and see if I can do this without it falling apart. Little bearing assembly just rolls inside there with a little bit of play, just so that it won't bind. But that should be it. Now just got to weld it, cut another 3 pieces, and then start welding things up. Real simple to do another set. You just rehome it to a clear piece of steel, and then tell it to do everything again, and it just does its own thing, and away it goes. And we are finished cutting. There we go. 2 sets done. Now I've got to clean them up, weld them up, and then weld them to here. Got to fill in these 2 previous holes, get them all cleaned up, because John's going to be re-drilling them for where he wants them on the base. Back in the shop, another day. Time to grind these pieces down that I cut yesterday for the bearing slide. and get them prepped and ready to weld in place. Yep, you got it. Grab my safety gear, put it on, and start it again. Got the first set cleaned up and ready to go. Ready to tack this one in place. Takes a little bit of messing around, but once you get them tacked into place initially, the next ones go pretty quick. First one tacked in place. Ready to put on. Next I got to weld up the holes here, and then we'll finish welding this out, tack it on, get it ready to go. And there's the back side of those holes I just filled in. Turned out pretty good. Time to put that piece on and tack it onto the angle bracket. You know, one thing I noticed when I'm doing these videos is that when I'm concentrating, I look kind of like I'm constipated, but yeah, I'm not. I'm concentrating. So tacking it in place, got to get it all lined up and make sure that the bearing assembly slides in there nicely, and once that's done, then I can finish weld it. Get number one tacked up and ready to start number two. This one I'm going to weld up the holes first. I decided you didn't need to see the grinding of the other pieces, so we're just right into tacking the second part. Yeah, tacking the pieces up usually is the part that takes the longest time, because that's the part you need to get right before you do the finish welding. So it's a lot of making stuff square, making sure the parts fit where they're supposed to, and just, as I say, it takes a fair amount of time. But once you get it done right, the rest of it goes easy.
and just welding up that final piece. And what I've done is I've put the two brackets together so that I know I'm going to weld it in the right spot on the brackets, so that the bearing slides will be at the same place. And here I was checking that the bearing would slide, would roll nicely on the assembly, and well, of course, it didn't. So I have had to do some changes and reconfiguration, and to finally get it to slide properly. But I finally did get that second one sorted out and ready to weld up.
Okay, tacks are all done now. Ready to finish welding.
Yeah, so here's where I did something stupid. I put my camera down on the bench to do some filming and suddenly realized how close it was to the grinder sparks. and realized I better move it. And of course, once I moved the camera, I forgot to turn it back on. So basically, that's as far as you get to see the process. And now I guess I'll show you the final product.
And there they are. Pieces are all welded up, cleaned up, and ready to go. Bearing slide in. So, all ready to call John, let him know it's good. And sun shines out today. Snow's melting. Maybe I'll get to the boulder in the next couple of weeks. Who knows?